I never thought my family could implode in a single afternoon. But there I was, holding my phone, staring at Facebook posts that felt like grenades going off in slow motion. Screenshots of my wife's private diary. Pages meant for no eyes but hers. Now plastered online for relatives, friends, and complete strangers to pick apart. Words torn from their context, lined up like evidence in a trial she never agreed to. And the person who posted them, my own 15-year-old daughter. Let me start at the beginning. I've been remarried for just over a year. My first marriage ended badly. Hers did too. We both carried the scars of partners who broke trust, weaponized our vulnerabilities, and left us wary of love. I have 2 kids from that first marriage, a 15-year-old daughter and an 11-year-old son. My wife has a daughter of her own, also 15. When I met my wife, blending our families wasn't simple. My daughter kept her guard up for months, eyeing my new partner like she was a stranger who might disappear at any moment. My wife understood. She didn't force closeness, but she kept showing up. Rides to school, late-night talks in the kitchen, shared jokes over homework. Slowly, they found their way toward each other. I told myself I wouldn't marry until I saw real signs of connection. And when I did, I thought we were safe. Before we married, we went to counseling. Both of us wanted to make sure we weren't dragging unspoken resentments into the future. Our counselor gave us an exercise. Keep a private diary. Write down fears, frustrations, unfiltered truths. Put the worst of it on paper so we could work through it in sessions. I had my own. She had hers. We hid them away when they weren't in use. For over a year, those pages sat in the back of our closet. Until a few weeks ago, my daughter found my wife's. I don't know what she was looking for, but she read it. Every word. And in those pages, she found sentences that cut her to the bone. Lines where my wife had written that she wished I hadn't had kids before we met, not because she hated them, but because life without the constant pull of my ex would have been easier. She had written that my daughter had picked up some of my ex's worst traits, that my ex was a terrible mother for using the kids as weapons in our divorce. It was raw, unfiltered, written during a time when my wife was still deciding if she could handle the complexities of a blended family. The kind of words you only put in a journal when you trust they'll never leave those pages. My daughter didn't confront us. She didn't even hint that she'd seen it. Instead, she took photos, not just of the lines about her, but of deeply personal parts of my wife's life, including her pain over growing up with an alcoholic father. And then she posted them online, framing my wife as cruel and heartless. When I found out, my wife was already inconsolable. The comments were pouring in. Friends and family, people who'd eaten at our table, were calling her awful, unforgivable. My daughter refused to take the posts down. She said she was in the right, that my wife had revealed her true feelings, and everyone deserved to know. I won't lie, reading those sentences hurt me too. It stung to imagine what my kids must have felt. But I knew what those words were. They were snapshots of an old emotional landscape captured in the middle of therapy, never meant to be shared. They were not the whole truth of how my wife feels today. I told my daughter she had crossed a line. She said she wouldn't see me again if my wife was in the house. My son followed her lead. Overnight, the family we'd built fractured into two camps. My ex saw her chance and told me she'd be going to court to reduce my custody and sue my wife for defamation. I know the lawsuit will fail. You can't defame someone in a diary you never published. But custody? That's different. At their ages, the court will listen to what my kids want. And right now, they don't want to set foot in our home. My wife has apologized over and over, even though the entries were written long before, even though they were never spoken aloud. But the damage is done. The kids see her as the villain. My family and friends are split. Some saying I should stand with my kids no matter what. Others saying I should defend my wife, who had her privacy ripped apart. It's a nightmare with no good moves. If I stand by my wife, my kids may cut me out. If I side with my kids, I betray my partner and the marriage I promised to protect. Every day feels like a negotiation between two halves of my life, and I can feel both slipping away. And so, here I am, torn open, asking the question that's been burning in me since that day. I've taken my wife's side in all this. I believe in her. I know the truth of where those words came from. But am I the asshole? So, am I the asshole? When I hear a story like this, I think about how privacy is something we all take for granted until it's gone. A diary isn't a press release. It's a safe where we put the thoughts we're not proud of, so we can look at them without shame and decide who we want to be. This story isn't just about a marriage or a teenager's rebellion. It's about trust and what happens when it's shattered from both sides. It's about the painful reality that even in loving families, people can wound each other in ways that don't heal easily. Maybe you think a stepmother should never have written those words. Maybe you think a daughter should never have read them. Maybe you believe both are true. What I take from this is simple. Relationships live and die on our ability to handle each other's humanity, the messy, imperfect, unflattering parts. Sometimes that means holding space for feelings that hurt to hear. And sometimes it means knowing when to keep a boundary sacred. So I'll leave you with this. If someone read your private thoughts at their worst moment, would they still see you for who you really are? And if they couldn't, would you want them in your life? What would you do?